Mm. All right, so I'll just we'll just do this intro and see where it goes.
Dun, 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 dun.
Oh yeah, welcome back to the show, everybody. This is Nathan,
And I'm Markese.
and you're listening to Echospective. Marquise, today we're really kicking things off this month. It's February. We've got some new stuff going on, and some old stuff going on. We just have stuff going on.
Yeah, happy new month to everybody.
And the good thing is, maybe it's a good thing depending on your perspective, is people are now going to be able to hear stories from other people who aren't us. So that's pretty exciting because that means we don't have to do as much talking.
That's always nice.
We can be active listeners. So
Echo
yeah,
active
yeah,
listeners.
echo active, active spective.
Active perspective. Yeah, say that 3 times.
No, thank you. So Marquise, we have I guess you could say this is a special episode near and dear to my heart. We're going to be showcasing a Pennsylvania-based kids and family musician who also just happens to be part of my family. His name
Oh,
is his name is Stephen Courtney. He is my first cousin once removed. That's what Google told me he was.
oh well, gotta trust Google.
It gets weird when you have cousins that aren't like your cousins, you know what I'm saying? They're like your parents' cousins, and then it's like, whoa, how does all that work? So I had to Google it. First cousin once removed. So
Okay.
just want to give you a little tidbit here, a little bite of information, because once we get into the episode, we're going to let Steve do all the talking. He is in the Lancaster and Mannheim area. If anyone's ever been up there, that's where he is. We're going to have all his social media and website information in the show notes. Hopefully, he gains some new fans out of this episode and we don't scare anybody away. But I tell you, this guy's legit. Just let me read off some of his accolades. I want to brag about this guy for just a moment. Indulge me.
Okay. Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I'm here.
So he is a 2022 CPMA's Best Children's Artist Award winner. And you're probably asking yourself, what's a CPMA? Well, I'm going to tell you. It is
Well,
the
thank you.
it is the Central Pennsylvania Music Awards. So,
Central Pennsylvania Music Award. Okay.
as recent as 2022, he won the Best Children's Artist Award. 2018 Academics Choice Award. 2016 Parents' Choice Gold Award. In 2014, he got the Parents' Choice Silver Award. So, he was moving up. Um,
Hmm. Steven
2012
is moving around.
2012 Parents' Choice Recommended Award. He's also a seven-time winner of the Children's Music Web Award. He got the Arpeggio Award for outstanding work with children through the arts, and a PAB Broadcasters Award Best TV Series. Yeah, so he talks a little bit about um, all the stuff he's done, things that he's been most recently involved in. I don't want to give any spoilers, but one of the stories involves a certain street. That's all I'm gonna say.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah. So much like we asked all our guests, I asked Stephen if he could remember the first time that he heard a song and it was pivotal for him, a song that really maybe changed his life or really got him excited about music. And here's what he had to say.
Yeah, absolutely. I was trying to Google it here real quick just to make sure I have my dates right. Reading an article about myself.
That's right. When was the first time I heard music? According to Wikipedia.
But Nathan, I think the thing that the moment that I had that just really crystallized for me, the idea that someone had written a song and that they were singing this song and it was coming to me. It was playing on the radio, and it would have been in the summertime. I'm gonna guess it was 71, 72. It was the year whenever Roberta Flack's Killing Me Softly
Okay.
came out. And I was throwing the baseball against the barn, the block barn wall, and fielding grounders. And I was just out there, just, and other songs had been playing, the radio had been on, but it was just, I could just take myself there thinking about it right now. That opening chords, strumming my pain. And so, even just singing that right now, I get goosebumps because I kind of froze, and the ball went rolling past me and I didn't feel that one. And I was just listening to this voice. And what's cool now as an adult going back and hearing that song is it's like that song there's a lot going on for as chill as it is.
Mm-hmm.
There's this subtle, almost like a reggae drop 3 backbeat going on, and everything that's accompanying that lyric. It's just, again, so subtle. And at that time in my life, I'm 10, maybe 11. And
where did you live at the time?
At the time, I was living in a little town near Kalamazoo, Michigan, a little town called Mendon.
Okay.
We were on the first farm that we had bought there, and it was just this sound and this energy that made my mind for the first time stop and think, now, what is this? And at that time I was like, how do they get them into the studio so quick that they can sing their song so the next group gets in there and gets all set up to sing their song? I was thinking it was more live, like you would see, like when you see a variety show on television. That's what I had experienced up to that point.
That's funny.
Here's the MC, here's the group, here's a commercial, here's the MC, here's another band, And so I'm thinking that that's what's going on with the radio, even at that age.
Yeah.
What wasn't till later I started to really oh, they're playing recordings. That's what singles are. I get it now,
It's all making sense.
It was a real epiphany. And then right around that same time, Crocodile Rock by Elton John.
Oh my gosh.
It was just this cool sounding song that was played every 3 minutes. I mean, it was no matter where you turned on the radio, when that song became a hit, you literally could finish it on one station. I remember when, boom, here it is again. You just hit the dial and be like, oh man. That one too, that's when I also first started to really get that interest in the idea of like, oh, well, how can I get these songs so I can play them? Again, I had seen albums before. It just never really dawned on me, like, oh, you have the power to ask for this for your birthday or Christmas, or use that allowance money, save it up.
I too can own this.
Exactly.
With 3 easy payments of $19.95.
Well, back then for a penny, you could join the record club, and even
free
as
Columbia
a kid.
House.
Yeah, exactly. It was that whole thing. And you joined for a penny, you get 13 discs, and then you had to buy, 10 more for $80 or whatever. I mean, not then, it was like $10 a piece. It was full price. Still just a remarkable thing. Total side note, I was down in Nashville this past weekend at a recording summit. Ooh. And they were playing John Cougar's the album, the American Fool, was the album that had Jack and Diane and Hurt So Good. And they had a pressing that was done and mastered by this mastering company that they knew for vinyl. And this was one of the earliest. They actually had the card from Columbia, I think it was, that had all the mastering notes every time they'd print 30,000 or whatever they had these engineering notes, and they would slowly tweak the album every time they'd release it. And then they played a Columbia House release, or it was, something like just an off-brand
Uh-huh.
kind of, or cheaper pressing, and the audio difference was significant.
Wow.
I was just really like, huh, look at that. Anyway, total side note, but
That's
yeah,
okay.
buying records and that became much more of a fascination for me at that age.
And the interesting thing is you've got Roberta Flack and then you've got Elton John. And
Right.
that's like, did you think to yourself, okay, like these are two totally different, I
There
mean,
was
I guess for lack of a better term, a genre, or did
there
you
were
go, I'm seeing some similarities?
Yeah, that's a great question, because at that time, commercial radio was not broken down genre heavy.
Uh-huh.
You'd have Hey Jude would play, and then uh, Jim Croce would play, and then some silly novelty song, the night Chicago died, some goofy story song,
Yeah, yeah.
Billy, don't be a hero, yummy, yummy, yummy. I got, and then kiss drum in my pain. You're like, holy cow.
It's all over the place.
But that was normal.
Yeah.
That was normal. So you didn't consciously think of it, other than I was just like, yeah, I'm not that into this song or that song. But because all you had to do was, turn the dial and you'd find Crocodile Rock.
It all comes back to
Yeah,
Crocodile Rock.
it's so true. But yeah, that recording just fascinated me because it was so like now, or like fresh sounding, but it also had that retro vibe kind of thing going on with the vocals and just the way it was
Yeah.
played in that very, not doo-wop, but that early rock kind of a sound. Very
Yeah, I
cool.
mean, there's definitely kind of a Frankie Valli thing going
Yeah,
on.
there you go. Great reference. Yeah.
I did backing vocals on that song, in case you didn't know, in my previous life.
Always fun to get a kazoo and do that. Just, that takes it into the comedic zone, real quick. People are like, they either laugh and love it, or they're like, you're ruining my favorite song, pal.
Right. And the funny thing is, it's like already teetering.
Oh yeah.
It's like, is this song like a caricature of another song, or is
even
this legitimate art?
even the way Elton sings it, like at that point of his career, particularly on that album, which was Don't Shoot Me, I'm Only the Piano Player. And then the album right after that was Yellow Brick Road, the double album.
Oh man.
That, yeah, he released Elton John. You look at his early career from 70 to 73. I think there's 8 albums there. Madman Across the Water, Tumbleweed Connection. He did a movie soundtrack. 11/17/70, an incredible live album, just him, Dee, and Davey. Piano, bass, and drums, just rocking it.
Man.
The original album that had your song on it, which was just like self-titled Elton John.
Mm-hmm.
I'm missing something else in there too, but it just this epic and diverse work of songwriting, and Bernie Taupin just such a master at painting a picture lyrically. They're all like Yellow Brick Road. You get into that album, especially with the artwork back in those days. You'd open up this trifold album, and it was just this piece of art. Like,
Yeah.
you would just stare at. I'd read those lyrics every time I'd play it, and just look at those pictures over and over. That album had such a wide scope of genre blending on it, and just epic. It was a great era of music for the music listener.
Uh-huh.
We've really lost that experience where you'd back in those days, Nathan, you'd go to the store and you'd be walking around the mall, and and the mall was a new thing. So
Right.
you're walking around the mall, and you're like, you go into the record shop, you're like, oh my gosh, Elton's got a new record. Elton John's got a new record out again, and you're like, that's what you did.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
didn't have Netflix, you didn't have everything right here in the palm of your hand that you could just entertain yourself all day if you wanted to.
Right.
You would see that and you'd be like, darn, I don't have $7.99 on me, so I'm gonna have to wait till I come back.
Man.
And but that's what you did. You'd pop the headphones on and you'd look at the artwork, and and Elton was really just turning into an Elton John tribute. The Elton's albums though were really influential in the sense that he put the lyrics on every album jacket. That wasn't done a whole lot. I think Sergeant Pepper was one of the first ones that did that.
Yeah.
But I don't even think Magical Mystery Tour and some of those following albums had the lyrics in all those albums. But Elton from the very beginning, because they were really promoting that songwriting partnership with Elton,
Yeah.
music guy, and Bernie being the lyricist, and that was just another great talk about. There's these iconic music writing teams. Those two guys in that era were just, there's just nobody was touching that level of stuff that they were doing. Bernie's lyrics just still to this day resonate. There's very little there that doesn't hold up. Very cool.
Man, that is cool. Explain to our listener. Hopefully by the time this comes out, there would be at least 3.
Hello, listeners.
What tell us all what you do for a living.
Yeah, that's great. Well, last week we're starting at the end, right?
Right.
I've been fortunate to find this particular niche that works for me as a songwriter and as a performer, and it's in the kids and family music market. And I include family in there because I have intentionally, since the beginning of trying to chase a career down in this lane of music, it was always important to me that parents would be able to be like, yeah, I could listen to that.
Definitely.
Yep, I can hear that again, not just like put the headphones on and get out of here.
Yeah.
And so in 1991, I took the plunge to start performing full time and started recording kids and family albums. 27 at 30 albums later, I've kind of lost track.
Regular Elton John over there.
Well, there you go. I was certainly inspired by that kind of, being that prolific in the sense. But, Nathan, the thing that happened for me as a songwriter was the 10 years kind of running up to that, coming out of high school and up until 1991. I graduated high school in 79. So it was about a 12-year window there. I was the guy standing in the corner singing everybody else's songs, trying to throw in 1 or 2 of my own.
Right.
The folk singer songwriter guy, and had some marginal success there. At one point we were signed by a little management company down in Nashville, but nothing ever really came of that. And just pound the pavement and play your gigs and learn how to entertain people and deal with drunks. So the transition from that to performing for kids was a joy. It was like, oh, this is really different, daytime gigs and people listening, a controlled environment, all of that. But there, we were talking just about prolific. It was the sense that there was so much that could be said. You could write a fun song like a Yellow Submarine kind of thing, and or you could write something that had really pulled more at the heartstrings. And that appealed to me, to be able to kind of blend the singer songwriter mentality at the same time as trying to be like, hey, just good rock and roll music, good music for the whole family. And so this past week, I performed concerts number 7,003 through 7,012. I had 10 shows in 4 days. Came back from that Nashville trip, and it was just boom, 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 boom. So
that's incredible.
Yeah, and that's I get a flat guarantee to perform those kinds of shows, so I can budget my year based around trying to play X amount of shows.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the day, I used to sell a lot of CDs, cassettes.
What are those?
And VHS tapes. Yeah, I know.
8 tracks.
Yeah, exactly. We never did 8-track, but I've done vinyl, I've done cassette, I've done VHS and CDs. So the thing, that has really changed artistically for artists now, and it's one of the hardest things besides performing and writing and recording. I run a recording studio, And it's been one of the hardest things with new artists and even established artists to try to motivate them to record, because they're financially investing in studio time,
Right.
and then you put it out there. Back in the day, I used to be, I'd say, hey, sell 150 of these things for $10 and you're going to recoup your recording budget, and you're going to make your money back to press, 500 CDs and get yourself up and running. And now it's like, let's record a single, and if you get 4.8 million streams, you'll get $100 and it'll be cool. And I don't even know what the payout is anymore. I know I see a revenue stream through mine because I've got a fairly vast catalog, and fortunately, that thing of targeting, the whole family. I've got grandparent listeners and adult listeners, and now there's a new generation of kids growing up, and their parents were the kids that are like, oh yeah, yes, Stephen Courtney, we know this guy. And, so that's very cool. But yeah, so between performing and running my recording studio, I've been able to carve out a livelihood since '91.
Man, living the dream.
Really, truly. Well, one of the cool things I never anticipated happening was I was performing a show at an elementary school, and this teacher approaches me and says, hey, I animate these little short films, but I really could use a songwriter to help me pitch some new ideas. And I'm like, oh, that'd be great. And I'm like, what do you do with them? He goes, oh, I do these short films for Sesame Street. I'm like, oh, cool. So we've done.
I think I've heard of it.
Yeah, I'm like, I literally was like, that would be great. And so
I'll do it for free.
Well, it those are work for hire type things. So you've got you pitch a budget, and hopefully they bite on it, and you go, yep, there you go. I see residuals on it through publishing, but it's a cool thing, and we've done 6 songs together now, and that's just always fun. Even my grandkids are not. We heard you on Sesame Street today. I'm like, how cool is that?
Yeah.
Legacy of a show there.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, we'll obviously have your information posted along with the episode when this airs, and you'll gain some new followers.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
StephenCourtney.com. Stephen with a V, Courtney with a C. Tom with a COM.
I-B4E and whatnot.
Oh, we're in.
And the horse was returned to its rightful owner. So, looks like we're back from our commercial break.
Remember, Soupy Power Junkie Cups can help you have a great day.
How do you spell relief? So
the whole generation has no idea what we're talking about.
I know. Kids today. Am I right?
Kids today.
So we've discussed what you do now. What I'd like to know, and the neat thing about this, especially when I'm going to be talking to friends and family, is I'm sure there are stories that I don't know. So while our listeners are hearing this kind of stuff for the first time, so am I. So I'm very intrigued into your life. I will be stalking you from now on.
Awesome.
Yay.
I got 3,000 people now, stalkers. I got 1,500 followers, but I got 3,000 stalkers. I don't know how that works.
So you were talking about being, living the dream, being a musician, going on the road, doing that kind of stuff, and kind of doing stuff on your own terms relatively. When did it click for you? When you said, this is, I'm hearing this stuff on the radio, I'm buying these records, I'm a consumer, an audible consumer of music. I want to start making my own.
Right.
When did that happen?
The summer when I was 15. So this would have been summer of '76. I visited a friend's house, and it was a older guy that worked for my dad on the farm. He kind of supervised and managed one of our operations, a portion of our farm. His name's Jimmy Jones. And Jimmy, I got invited over to his house one weekend. And when I was there, I walk in, and he's sitting on the couch strumming a guitar and singing Ventura Highway by America, I guess it was.
Oh.
And I'm like, dude, I did not know you could play guitar. He's like, yeah, I dabble. And
And then he's like,
he's just strumming along, and he just kind of made it look so easy. And then he took a break and he set the guitar down. I'm like, Jimmy, can I try your guitar? He's like, sure. Here's the chord. See this little diagram here? You put your number one finger here and your two finger there. You got to, push your thumb around here. Yeah, he just kind of got me started, and I hit an E minor chord, and then there was another chord in that song that's kind of like a broken D chord.
uh-huh.
You take your your middle finger, your three, is that your two finger? Your two finger, and you slide it to the second fret on the E string, so it's an F sharp, and then you split your ring finger over to like I guess it'd be the G string, and you hit an A there, and then you let everything else kind of ring open.
Uh-huh.
So it's that gene, gene. It's that chord right there.
Yeah.
And I did it, and I was just like mind blown.
It's all over.
It really was. My dad said that was the day my sports career started to just kind of less talk about playing pro baseball and more talk about, yeah, I really would like
being a starving artist.
Exactly. Well, I had no clue like what that even meant, so
Right.
it didn't really, that level of trying to like go for it and sustain a livelihood didn't happen until a little bit later. So that was the summer of 76. For that birthday that year, when I turned 16, my folks gave me a guitar, and
That's so cool.
I wrote 8 songs that day, and all all garbage. But I didn't even really realize that a good song is about a main idea, and that
Yeah.
just so many things I didn't know. But
You're just writing about observational stuff.
I was writing because
Rocking down the road.
Yeah.
I like cookies. Like, might need to work on that a little bit, son.
Yeah, exactly. I was writing songs because I was learning chords. So I'm like, I gotta learn. I gotta 2 new chords I can play. So then I didn't even know about keys at this point. Like that, there's certain chords that work together magically, and there's certain chords that do not. So it's not like a bad acid trip on a couple songs, but that was like the beginning of the idea of like, okay, I could learn how to be a songwriter.
Uh-huh.
And then over the next couple years, kind of through the high school years, I just kept playing more and more. I showed up one time to leave our high school to get on the bus to go to another town to play a baseball game. And I brought my uniform and I brought my guitar, but I forgot my ball glove. And my coach just laughed, like, oh, Courtney. And so I had to borrow somebody's glove to play that day. But it was already like becoming a real extension of just my energy. And then I really got immersed in just, songbooks and trying to learn people's songs. And then I started to study and started to go, it's all self-taught. When I say study, just, kind of, you take a songwriter like Gordon Lightfoot and you get a catalog of like 30 of his songs, and you're just like, oh my gosh, how does he come up with this stuff? I remember also thinking like, I can't wait till I get a little bit older when I actually have some experience, some things that I've actually done in life that I could write about, that were genuinely mine and not me just projecting myself into some future life.
Being conceptual.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. 15 years old. And, I'm down and out.
I ain't got no job.
That's right. Which was true.
Yeah, I was gonna say that part would have been true.
So yeah, I mean that was right in that window of time was when it really clicked for me. Like, oh, there's something here that I love. And then I guess it was probably, let's see, I had learned to drive. So I was probably 16 and a half, 17 years old. And I drove by this restaurant one day and I see this guy loading gear in, and I'm like, oh, go ask him what he's doing. And it was in little town Three Rivers, Michigan. It's a guy named Neil Unger. And he's like, oh, I'm playing a gig here tonight. I'm like, oh my gosh, like when? He goes, I think I started at 7, play 7 to 10, something like that. And so I went home and I told my folks, I said, I want to go hear this guy play tonight. And they were cool with it. So they let me drive. And I went in and heard this guy playing, and he was playing his own stuff, but then I said, I just was down in Nashville, recorded a single. And I forget what it was called. I ended up buying the single though. It was a good song. It actually got some local airplay.
That's cool.
And yeah, it was very cool. But then I just started talking to him about, well, how do you get gigs? And he just kind of gave me a simple rundown of, I printed up this little flyer and I hand out this business card, and I always give him a contact of somebody I've worked for before. So I walk into a place after the lunch hour and just see, is there who's your entertainment person? Does anybody here I could just play a couple songs for? That's how you do. And that's how, Joyce and I have so many stories of, that's how we got a foot in the door. We would just go and literally live play, sit at the bar and play 2 or 3 songs, and people would be like, oh, I'm coming here, these kids,
Yeah.
Yeah.
This newfangled music.
Look out, they sound like real professionals. and then, and then I remember asking Neil, I was like, so how does this work? And he goes, some of the better places I get $100 a night. And my mind was blown. I'm like, $100 a night. Holy cow. What do you do with all that money? And
I mean, hey, I take that now.
Well, it's so weird how that is so, especially if you've got a band out there. If the local guys here are like, if we can all make $100 a night, that's a good night. And I'm just, that is what it is. I'm not gonna bash that and knock it. There's a lot of great bands locally that have that's what they're kind of have to play for to do what they do.
Yeah.
The thing that happened for me when I discovered the kids and family market, and that was so organic how that came to me. I wrote some songs for my daughter Brooke, and when she was little, recorded them on a cassette tape. By then, Taylor was born as well, my son, and recorded this little cassette tape for them to listen to at night. A couple of my nieces got a hold of the cassette. Hey, Uncle Steve, can we get a cassette tape? I'm like, sure. And I burned them a copy, and then they took it to school for show and tell.
Oh, wow.
I wasn't expecting that. I got a call.
Like some real underground stuff.
It was just like very organic. And then I got a call from a school, and they're like, can you come do an assembly for us? And at the time I was, working 50 hours a week installing hardwood floors and concrete and, whatever I had to do to sustain a livelihood.
Yeah.
And then I approached my employer and said, hey, is there any way I can get my 50 hours in 4 days? And they said, yeah, you could come do warehouse work in the morning, and then after your crew's done, you could stay and do another hour of warehouse work for us and get your 50 hours in. We'll give you your Fridays off. And so in 91, that spring of 91, I got to do about 3 or 4 school assemblies. And then the word of mouth from that started to spread. And then I got contact to get into a couple of the county's local summer reading programs through the libraries, and did some community events. And by the middle of July, Joyce and I are looking at each other going like, man, there could be enough opportunity to do this full time.
Yeah.
And so we took the plunge, and, 98, August of 91 is when I went full time into it. There it is. Still doing it. Crazy. Yeah. From LA to India, I've had opportunities to play. It's wild.
That is. Man.
And Nathan, the thing that ended up working for me though was I came up with this phrase that less can be enough.
Mm-hmm.
There's not less is not more. You hear that a lot. And I understand what you're trying to say, but if I owe you $500 and give you $300, that's not more, is it?
Right.
Less is definitely not more. We need those two things to be what they are, but less can be enough. And so I just dialed in like a 5-hour radius here of Central PA where I live, and said, that's where I'm going to gig. This is, places I can drive to in a day and be home at night if I want to, or if I stay out for a couple of days, it's not draining, it's not taxing on my family, and it's just much more manageable. And there's just a plethora of opportunities within the education systems and the summer community systems and festivals, and yeah.
Man. Well, let's end on something that involves perspective. I believe, I don't know if this was in a response to a Facebook post I made, or you and I were talking about something. Oh no, maybe my mom shared a post that you posted about your song Stephen the Pirate.
Yeah.
And that the lyrics early on were different.
Yeah.
The Stephen the Pirate I know is
Right.
not the same Stephen the Pirate from days of yore.
Yeah.
Tell us that story.
Yeah, that's such an interesting thing. Stephen the Pirate, I have this distinct memory of typing those lyrics when I wrote it. I was sitting in like this little workspace I had in the apartment where we lived before we built our house and moved to Mannheim here. So this would have been the first Kids and Family album I did was called Today and Tonight. Had fun songs on the Today side, sleepy time songs on the Tonight side. 20-song collection. And I was working on a new album called Love is Like a Circle. And that album also has Detective Joe. Ooh. And another song called, Stephen the Pirate's on there. Anyway. And I wrote both of those songs specifically kind of like thinking like characters, story song kind of thing. Stephen the Pirate is written in very much almost like a limerick, Stephen the Pirate was a lot like Robin Hood. He'd borrow from the rich and lend to the poor, and for a pirate, that's pretty good, yada 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 yada. And so again, talking about form, when you slowly learn things as a songwriter, you're like, oh, well, I've got this form structure for this now. I just kind of tell the rest of the story in that rhythmic pattern.
Yeah.
So I recorded the original version, and at the time when I wrote that in probably late 91, early 92, Star Wars was huge, as well, it's still huge, but it was huge then.
The resurgence.
Yeah, this is pre-resurgence. I mean, this is like the real thing.
Yeah.
And it was with that mindset, I wrote the Stephen the Pirate lyric, sort of a good guy versus a bad guy kind of thing. And so the original lyric was there was Stephen the Pirate, and then his enemy was the Dark Pirate. And kind of again alluding to the force, the light, the darkness, that kind of thing.
You're like, this is gonna go over so well.
You know what?
Tapping into that Star Wars market.
It was like what the next to last song on side B. That's how little I cared about the song. Really, I was just like, when I would sequence albums, I would always, start strong. Song number 3 on most of my albums is the one that's really for your heart. It's about, kindness, love. It's something universal like that. And then the rest of the songs kind of play out just with genre and, what kind of feel they have in sequence. Yeah. So Stephen the Pirate's like, if people never get to that part of the cassette, okay, no problem. They could go back to flip it over back to side A.
Yeah.
And so one time, and then around this time, I had a cable TV show called Look, Laugh, and Listen. Sing, Laugh, and Listen. And I was, trying to come up with content to fill a half an hour show. And so I just put on this little bandana and a little vest and had a little pirate sword and an eye patch, and I performed Stephen the Pirate. And next thing I know, at concerts, people started to ask. Local people were like, how are you going to do Stephen the Pirate? You going to do Stephen the Pirate? Yeah, sure. I'll do Stephen the Pirate.
You're like, that's a B-side, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it was just one of those things, like it just started to happen. And so So that lyric at the end of the song, after this, Stephen the pirate, the dark pirate comes on, he takes over the ship, throws Stephen overboard. Stephen, sneaks back up, coming up the anchor while they're pulling it in. They don't see he's there, and I don't know how that would technically happen, but it did. And he gets in, goes back, sneaks downstairs. He lets his crew out. They go up. They have this swashbuckling moment, and at the last, the lyric was, everybody watched as the dark pirate fled. His body got away, but Stephen had the dark pirate's head. And it was, and so, thinking of it now and thinking of like the intensity of that, it's just kind of like,
yeah.
But what happened, Nathan, was when I would perform it, I had this little like burlap bag, and I had this little like scary skeleton kind of head I'd pull out of it, like a little pirate head, So it also had that visual live, like, whoa, people would be like, geez, I did very theatrical,
Yes.
And so then it became, vastly popular. Like people were we were into that kind of thing when we were younger. And no, I'm just kidding. But then one day I showed up at school, and it was the day that Columbine happened.
Oh.
And showed up at school. It was the first time I got stopped at the door. It was the first time I was asked for ID before I entered.
Wow.
And this is how much things changed in a day.
Mm-hmm.
I used to have contacts with the school, and I would say, hey, I'll be coming in, and I'm going to load in around back where I normally get to, because it's closer to the stage back there. They'll be like, yeah, that's great. We'll tell Jerry, the custodian, to just prop the door open. And when you get here, just come on in. And that literally hundreds of places.
Yeah.
When the weather was right, I could drive around to the school, didn't have to even let the office know I was there. I would go in, they would trust me. I'd load in my gear. Jerry'd be like, hey, good to see you again. You got to do Stephen the Pirate, and so that day, just like everything changed.
Yeah.
So I continued to perform Stephen the Pirate for a while. And then one summer at a concert series, family concert series, it's a group of people standing around, kind of hanging around after the meet and greet at the end of the show. And they're like, hey, can we talk to you a second? I'm like, yeah, sure. What's up? And they said, your show is so positive. It's so fun. It's just so good. But, there's an element of Stephen the Pirate that's just, and they didn't even have to finish what they were saying, because I was kind of already feeling it.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, yeah, I hear you. Thank you for sharing that. That validates, kind of where my leanings were anyway. And they were like, if you continue to perform it, it's not like this is a threat or anything. And they were just really cool about it. So I retired the song for years. And when I re-recorded it, so that would probably, I forget what year Columbine was, but when I re-recorded it, I changed that lyric at the end. Everybody watched, and I changed it from dark pirate to mean pirate. As the mean pirate ran away, Stephen's crew just smiled, for they had won the Pirate's Day. And also intentionally really set up the song in concert to let children know that this is a group of friends playing and pretending like they're having a pirate adventure.
Mm-hmm.
So, this isn't real. This is really playing.
This isn't Somalian type stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And so once I did that little change, and kind of lost the visual of the burlap bag, I was able to sing that song again, and there was a whole generation that's the version of the song they knew.
Yeah.
So they weren't really surprised that there was a different ending. But there was, there was a little, it wasn't like backlash, but there were people who were like, you changed something there at the end. And I'd be like, you think? And then all I had to do was start with, after Columbine, And then people would be like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, they're like, oh, yes, yeah.
Yeah, no, really, there was just a genuine, because that affected, the nation.
Right.
That was that was the first one that really took everybody's breath away in that sense of like, whoa. So, yeah, so a lyric change on that, and then again, I just was approached by folks who genuinely cared,
Mm-hmm.
and in a kind and helpful, loving way, they were able to address it, and I was just able to let it sit and uh, exercise creativity. It's my song. I can rewrite if I want to. So,
Right.
why not? And I've actually had many songs over the years. I've just tweaked a little bit, even the melody just a little bit, or a lyric phrase or two, or had many songs that I've written it but re-recorded with a totally different style of music or melody,
Uh-huh.
because I was like, I love this lyric, but I'm just not happy with the end result. Anyway, so yeah, that's the story of the metamorphosis of Stephen the Pirate into what it is today.
And that's important because as the owner of the intellectual property, you could have gone, hey, like, you guys don't know what you're talking about,
Yeah,
or like,
right.
I wrote it, sorry, like,
Yeah,
I don't mean anything by it or whatever. You could
right,
have been a jerk about it, but you welcomed someone else's perspective, and especially as a songwriter, a musician, or anybody who is an artist of any type, author, painter, sculptor, influencer,
right, right. Yeah,
you kind of get tunnel vision. You can
right.
get caught in your own work, and you cannot be objective.
Yeah,
Um, so I think it's important, not only in an artist's life, but in all our lives, to an extent, welcome being challenged.
right.
Why do you think that? Or why did you write that song that way? Or why did you paint that picture like that?
Yeah,
Um, and as long as civil discourse can occur, hopefully it's beneficial for both sides.
yeah. Well, in that particular case for me, it I wanted to change. I realized it, and they were just the validation I needed to
Yeah,
have somebody go, yeah, because I was already feeling it. I would see it like in artwork, when kids go back to their classroom, and they would draw down, But a lot of times it's just me and a guitar, but every now and then there'd be one
like
with
a
a
severed head.
well, yeah, and I'd see those, and it'd be like, ooh, okay, maybe questioning, is that too graphic? Is it too
Right.
much?
Yeah.
And I, when they said everything you do in your show is so fun and so positive and so uplifting, there's just one thing.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I'll be happy to let that go. You know, if
Uh-huh.
I can replace it with something else that keeps the energy going, that this is what my intention is,
Yeah.
then that's a win-win. But
Yeah. It's not worth it
yeah,
to
exactly.
keep that in there.
The original version, though, is actually, you can stream it. It's still out there. It's what's called early favorites,
Ooh.
90, the cassette year or something like that, 92 to 94. And then there's multiple versions of it since. One is on the Imaginary Motorplane album, and that one that particular version features a little bit more of how we played it live,
Uh-huh.
because my drummer at the time, Hank, he had like a little counter narrative vocal that he would do to it, just this little things he would insert between lines, which made it more comedic. And so there's that version on there. There's another version on the Million Smiles to Go album. And
Yes.
then last year we released, Sun Hill Records released the Strumming Sunshine collection, which is 30 songs from the past 30 years of kids and family music, and they're all live. I started archiving live multi-track recordings back in 95, I think it was. So there's stuff there from 95 all the way up to the 30-year concert celebration we did last November. And there's a live version on there which has a slightly different ending than the current arrangement that I'm doing. It's
Ooh.
the lyric is the same, but there's there's a variation in the chord structure. The new version has more of like like a here we come underdog, here we come to save the day. That's why I call it ending, where it's just more of an ascending chord structure, whereas the original chord structure is more of a dirge where it just kind of lopes along in this very predictable kind of pattern. So yeah, that live version that's on the Strumming Sunshine is it's got some energy, and that crowd that day was about 500 folks who,
wow,
yeah, they gave that thing life. It was very cool.
that's cool. Well, if it's all the same, I'm just going to continue to get your stuff off of Napster.
Hey, Napster's got to make a living. You know, what can I say?
That's right.
He's got kids, or she's got kids. They've got kids.
Yeah, right.
Them. Anyway.
If Lars Ulrich has anything to do with it, they won't.
So true. Napster. I haven't heard that one in a while. Last week when I was at Nashville, there was a guy that I met, Jason Carter. He is the owner of Atomic Disc. They're a company that still does CD and vinyl manufacturing.
Cool.
I think they're down south somewhere. And we were chatting, and it was day 2 or day 3 of the event, and we bump into each other again. He's go, "Oh, did I give you my MySpace page yet?"
MySpace.
I know. And he did it so seriously, and I was trying to remember if he'd given me his contact stuff. I'm like, no, I don't think I got it. He just looked at me like, dude, I just said something really funny and you didn't even react. And I'm like, oh yeah, MySpace, got it. I said, yeah, you and me and Tom. Yeah, we're all in there together.
Right. Yeah, that's the ticket. Well, Stephen with a V, I appreciate you talking to us today.
Nathan with an N.
Yeah, there's 2 of them.
Yes. And a right in the middle.
Just like a Thneed.
Hey.
Really, I appreciate you taking some time to share your life, and hopefully there will be some future discussions as we move forward with this endeavor.
Yeah, keep me in the loop.
You are helping lay a foundation, and I greatly appreciate that.
All the best to you in this adventure, and I hope it goes well for you.
Thank you so much.
You bet.
Have a splendid day.
Hugh Aswell. You know Hugh? Right. Hugh Aswell, great guy.
All right.
Did you say hello to the German listeners?
Oh,
Ich heiße Sie gern.
Yes, Markese. I thank you for bringing up our international listeners, and I just wanted to say something special to those 5 people. All right, let's see if I can do this.
Uh-oh, drum roll.
It's been a long time. This goes out to all our German peeps listening. Vielen Dank an alle unsere deutschen Zuhörer. Wir lieben dich. Ja, ja. Hopefully that's close enough, and you all understand what I tried to say.
That was much longer than mine. Ich heiße Sie gern. That's all I know.
All right, so let's speak in a language that we do know, and
sometimes
talk about any takeaways or thoughts we have from this episode, Markese, because part of what we want to do, and this won't necessarily happen all the time, but I think there's some good talking points to take away from this. Is we're not only allowing others to share their perspective, but sometimes it's good for you and I to share our own, and discuss how these discussions makes us think about things, or what it makes us think about. I think for me, one of the maybe most interesting points of that interview was when Stephen was challenged to think about how his work affected his listeners, his audience, and just the fact that he was willing to take constructive criticism and know that what his parents Uh, to hear what the parents had to say,
Right.
and to take that to heart and go, it's worth a thought, and it's worth a change. And the fact that he had already been thinking about it anyway, and just getting that confirmation, that, because sometimes you're in your own bubble and you're writing stuff
Hmm.
and you go, oh man, this is gonna be great, and you don't know how it's going to be received. And
Right.
sometimes that's just as important. um
Yeah, because sometimes you're in your own world, and I know the song, that you're speaking of, and what he's talking about, and when you're wrapped up in your own, I mean, sometimes it takes someone to, I mean, especially like, like you said, he'd been feeling this way and he wasn't sure, I guess he
right.
wasn't sure because of the response that he was getting back. It took one person to tell him, what they said. And it was like, okay, maybe maybe it's time to set this aside. Maybe it's time to put this down and move on and go from there, because I just don't, this is something that I've been wanting to do. So it's kind of understandable, what you're saying. But I just feel like you are wrapped up in your own bubble sometime, that you can't
Right.
really see it. And sometimes it does take, and sometimes it's hurtful.
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't want to hear it, but a lot of those times we don't want to hear it because we know it's the truth.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
it takes a real person not to, because he could have easily lashed back and said, who are you? But because we know people that have done that before.
Hmm.
Uh, but for him to absorb it and to accept it, and I think he was born within himself first
Right.
before he was told. So to me, I call that confirmation,
Hmm.
because you already know on the inside, but you still fighting internally. And then, by someone who don't even know you, but still understands you in that realm, and it hits you, and he's like, okay, that was just it. And sometimes it only take one person, because
Yeah.
again, he had more response on a good hand as opposed to not. So he could have easily said, well, it's working right now.
Right.
But that one person, because on the inner side, he already knew, hey, this is something that I might need to tone back on.
Well, and as an artist, regardless of what art you are creating, you do want to know how your art is affecting people. I think most people want to know,
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah.
otherwise you're just making it for yourself, and that's okay too. But especially as a musician, it's a double-edged sword, because you're putting yourself out there, and you are creating something for a certain audience, and you want them to like it. You want them to enjoy it. You want them to engage with it. You don't want them to find the flaws. You don't want them to exploit weaknesses, or go, hey, we're not really sure what you're trying to say with this. So yeah, it can be difficult, because you don't want to be criticized, um, and think, oh well, just that person just doesn't get it. But they may get it, and maybe what they want to do is help you succeed as an artist, in kind of saying, hey, if you made this change, or I've noticed that people have a certain reaction to whatever it is. Um, and if that's what you're going for, that's one thing. But, I don't think Stephen was going for. You have to reassess and go, okay, my overall goal is to write and perform music for children and their parents to enjoy together. And if I am straying from that goal, regardless if I think what I am doing is great, or trying to achieve something, if the audience isn't getting it, or there's one thing that's really impeding them from enjoying the show as an entirety, then you kind of have to take a step back and go, okay, if I make this modification, does that ruin everything else?
Mhm.
And if it doesn't, then that's a good thing. And maybe a modification improves the overall experience. And at the end of the
Right.
day, that's what you want. So yeah, I thought that was a very interesting interesting story, and good on him for being willing to be objective about what was happening.
Right. Yeah,
Good on you,
absolutely.
Stephen.
Way to go, Steven.
Yeah. So yeah, this day in music, Markese, why don't you take it away?
This day in music. This day in music. This day in. Hey yo, what's up, and welcome to another edition of. Hey yo, what's up, and welcome to another edition of. Hey yo, what's up, and welcome to another edition of this day in music. Hey yo, what's up, and welcome to another edition of This Day in Music, but we on a different day. February the 7th, 1981. Let's get it going. Kool and the Gang Smash Party Single Celebration. Now don't tell me you don't know what Celebration is, Kool and the Gang. If you don't know, Google it. One of the best classics of all time. You play that at any wedding, at any party, at any cookout. It's gonna get the people moving. I'm telling you, grandma's gonna be moving. Great grandmas, mamas, pops, even little babies barely can walk holding their bottles, singing Celebration. I'm telling you, play that song, yo. Play it. Play it. 1981, it began a 2-week run at the top Billboard 100. This day in music. This day in music.
What else we got in this damn music?
This duo won a Grammy for Best R&B Performance Duo or Group with Vocals, and I'm talking about in 1987. I'm talking about Riri, y'all. Aretha Franklin teamed up with George Michael with I Knew You Were Waiting for Me. Now tell me again, you don't know that song. I Knew You Were Waiting for Me. What? I can hear the lyrics and see the song in my head. I can see the video in my head right now. That song, man, it was natural. That was an awesome song. This day in music, as we continue on. February the 7th, let's give some birthday shout outs right here on Echospective. This day in music, February the 7th, 1967. My man Kid Capri, one of the famous hip hop DJs of all time. Kid Capri was born 1967. 1962, another good gentleman, Garth Brooks, was birthed to this earth. 1962, David Bryan. All my rock buddies out there, Bon Jovi. David Bryan, happy birthday, my man. 1974, Jay Dilla, one of the greatest hip-hop producers of all time. He was named Coltrane of hip-hop, and y'all know who Coltrane is. He was cold jazz, right? Well, Jay Dilla on the beats was the same way. He passed away, rest in power, my man, but in 1974, February the 7th, Jay Dilla was born. And last, 1975, February the 7th, Wes Borland, Limp Bizkit. Happy birthday, my man. This day in music. What? Okay. All right. Yo, this damn music. This damn music in 2000, February 7th, rapper Big Punisher, aka Big Pun. He passed away, y'all. A heart attack. His album had just dropped or was about to come out, and he was, changing his whole diet and getting on, trying to be healthy, and he was making that turn in 2000. Rapper Big Punisher, aka Big Pun, he passed away. Rest in power, my man, Big Pun. And we miss you, brother, and love those songs. You know, I don't want to be a player no more. I'm not a player. I just crush a lot. What? We will remember you. Thank you for the music that you've given us. Big Punisher, aka Big Pun. This day in music. 1989. Georgia State Representative Billy Randall introduces a bill to make Little Richard's Tutti Frutti the official state rock song. Wait a minute. Oh, it didn't pass. Whew. Out of all the people you having that's from Ray Charles is from Georgia. Gladys Knight and the Pips on this midnight train to Georgia. You got Trisha Yearwood, Alan Jackson's from Georgia, the B-52s, and you come up with Tutti Frutti? Man, if you don't, yeah, I got it. This Day in Music, 1980, the Sugar Hill Gang released its self-titled album. Y'all already know what song was on that. Rapper's Delight. Woo, that's another one. That's another one you play at a party. Oh man, and the chicken tastes like wood. What? Hip hop's first studio album. Of course, you know, it's debatable because, you know, people say rap was out before that, but listen, the first studio where they recorded it, put it on wax is what they called it, and presented it to the people. It was the first of its kind to be put out like that. Congratulations, 1980. Man, the 80s. Build me a time shaft. I want to go back to the 80s. Who going with me? All right, cool. Now I got a list here. Here's another example why the 80s was rocking with music. In 2005, in the UK, they took a poll. Top 10 videos, right? Michael Jackson's on the list twice with Thriller and Billie Jean. Madonna's on the list twice with Like a Prayer and Vogue. You had Peter Gabriel at Sledgehammer. Aha, Take On Me, which was, man, that song too. I like that song. I ain't gonna front, I like that song, man. The 80s, man. Just can't beat it. This Day in Music. I'm gonna call it This Day Music in the 80s. Let's do that. This Day in Music. Today's episode of Echospective was supported by Tramark Turf Solutions, LLC. Today's episode of Echospective was supported by Tramark Turf Solutions, LLC. This Day in Music.
Man, that was some interesting stuff. I love it. This Day in Music. I think we'll have to do this every week. It'll just become part of the whole deal.
Oh, yeah, I'm enjoying it.
Speaking of part of the whole deal, Markese, how can people get in touch with us if they want to tell us their stories? Because we'd like to hear them.
Absolutely. We on all of the sites, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, X, and also you can call us at 336-298-8124. That's 336-298-8124. And we would love to hear from you.
Yeah, leave us a message. You can also send us an email from the website, echospective.com. And that's kind of the hub of everything that goes on. If you're like, oh, I don't remember what the Instagram handle is, or I don't remember the Facebook, it's all there. You just clicky.
And if you have any other questions, just go to the website, echospective.com. All of our information is right there on the page, and you won't have to call your friend, your grandma, your uncle, nobody, and ask them. You can find for yourself.
What about your neighbor's cat? Do they know?
They probably know, because I'm sure we're going to have somebody was singing to a cat at some point. So check the cats too.
Yeah. And also, if you want to help support the show in a monetary fashion, you can click the little coffee cup link that's on the website, and that'll take you to buymeacoffee.com. Hey, every little bit helps, you know?
Thank you so much for that. We would love to hear from you, and buy us a coffee.
That's right. And hey, if you leave us a message or you write us a message, you might end up on the show. So how cool is that? Thank you to Steve and Courtney for being on the show this week. It was
Yes, thanks,
fantastic.
Steven.
But you can check out all his stuff in the show notes. Also, there you will see information on how to get in touch with us in case you are listening to this in the car and then you get to work and you forget, what was that website? Well, you just go in the show notes and check it out.
When all else fails, echospective.com. I'm Markese.
And I'm Nathan. See you next time. Echospective was recorded and produced in Mockingbird Studios. Brought to you by Markese Burke and Nathan Sieg, and in part by their respective families. We thank you all so much for pushing us to strive for excellence. And we thank you, the listener. Your support means everything.